So hello everybody, welcome to this will be 79 because we've just done an interview with Paul Gerard yesterday that's going to be up, which I'm really excited about. But I'm delighted to welcome back Mike and Alex from Battlebards. Hello guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Excellent. They waved for the benefit of the YouTube. I like it. But yeah, so the reason these guys are on, and I know that I'm sure they'll explain to you guys in detail that for those that are listening and watching on YouTube, and that they'll be explaining their Kickstarter and why they ended up doing it again. And I'm obviously interested to know. So the obvious starting point, guys, for me is to say like they did a Kickstarter that they promoted on the last podcast. And then they sent me an email basically saying that that's changed. And I guess the first thing would be to open the floor to you guys and just give you a chance to explain, why you did the decisions that you did.
Sure. We were about 2 weeks in, and we were well on our way to getting funded. But we started receiving a lot of emails and a lot of feedback from the gaming community that had a little bit of an issue with the subscription model. They loved the idea. They loved the audio. The tools that we were developing, but they just didn't quite sit right with the fact that this was subscription based. So we kind of sat down with the core team and hashed through all this feedback and thought, well, if we want to be a community, if we want to cater to the gaming community at large, we need to respond to what the gaming community is telling us. And from what we were seeing, the majority were saying that they would feel more comfortable if they could purchase the audio and they could actually have the actual file. And we kind of had a couple of long nights discussing with the core team. Look, do we actually take the step to click cancel? What is that going to mean with the people who already supported us? Are we going to, kind of piss anybody off by actually canceling and coming, starting again? It was a really tough call. We kind of went back and forth for a week, but ultimately we decided, look, if the gaming community is telling us to do this, then it behooves us to do it. Now, that required renegotiating with, a ton of talent, creating a new business model in a couple of days, making sure that we had all the media stuff prepped to announce this. I mean, this was, an insane amount of work to do within a 3-day period, but we got it done, and I think the gaming community has responded. We're doing really, really well with this relaunch. So I think we were right.
Yeah, I mean, the outpouring from, the community being what it was, that just basically told us it was a no-brainer for us to make this transition.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want to just be like, well, look, we already did it once. We're going to get funded. Let's just do it the way that we wanted to originally. It just made a lot of sense to appeal to what gamers were asking of us out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, I find that incredibly sort of commendable, and one of the reasons why I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk as well is because when I read it, obviously there were certain things that you didn't have time to go into a great deal of detail, over an email or whatever it is when you sent me some stuff, and it was just one of the things that I always want to kind of underline when these decisions get made is that your answer there clearly indicates to me that you were doing it for the right reasons, because if somebody had the idea of, oh, we've got a Kickstarter that may get funded and we're going to get money, I probably would know more people who would go, but let's get the money anyway, and then whatever, sort of like let's shaft people anyway. And you're saying you're doing it because you got a response and actually listen to people who said, why have you ever thought about doing it this way, or we don't like it this way. So it's just great for you guys to do that. I mean, obviously, because I'm glad as well that you explained that it obviously was a difficult decision, and the amount of work I imagine you guys put in was a huge amount to turn it round and go, right, we need to start again, but let's. So I guess the next thing to go across is to kind of, could you tell me in like a sort of layman's term what the difference of the two projects are? Like what are the key fundamental differences between the two?
Yeah, the main difference is with the subscription model, you pay a monthly amount and you had access to the entire catalog, 500, 700 tracks.
Yeah.
Now, people are going to be able to cherry pick exactly what they want. So say, for example, Stephen, you are really into the sound effects, not so much into the music or voiceovers. You can buy all the sound effects you want, and specifically these sound effects that you want, and actually own the file. So you want to put it in your car, you want to put it on your MP3 player because you just like listening to sound effects on your way to work or whatever. No problem. That's easy to do. Even the mixes are going to be delivered as a file. So when you put a mix together of using some of your, some of our voiceover and one of your music from an OST, that's going to be mixed into an actual file that's going to be delivered to you. That's probably the major difference.
Awesome.
And I think the gaming community, the reason that they responded this way as we dug deeper into the feedback was there was some concern. We're a brand new company, Battlebards. Nobody knows who we are. We don't have a whole lot of history. So a lot of people were wondering, well, what if you guys, heaven forbid, go under after a year or 6 months or whatever? Then it's going to be like all that money that we pay for the subscription, that kind of evaporates. And, that's true. I mean, it makes sense. A lot of people simply like the feeling of having something. They have something, even though it's not tangible, it's a digital file, but still they get to actually have something. So it made sense.
Is it kind of as well, like, I mean, I was just thinking this, which my response to that, that to me makes a lot of sense, and I guess in your defense, it's kind of one of them things where you kind of go, oh, I'm giving everybody everything, but they go, no, we want little bits and pieces. It kind of reminds me, maybe it's like, is it right to say it's sort of like you've changed it into an online shop, as in you can have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, as opposed to just he has everything, when they go, well, we might not want everything, which sounds bizarre if you think about it. If you went to, I suppose if you went to like a business advisor and they go, we're going to give them everything, but they want a little bit over time, and you're like, well, what? Yeah, like, isn't the first one a better offer? But no, I think. So am I right in assuming it's kind of like an online shop for audio, really, is what you've kind of turned it into?
Yeah, it's going to be, think of it as a premium destination for gaming audio via like iTunes.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's going to be very, very similar to that, except unlike iTunes, we actually give you, some gaming specific tools to use the audio. But essentially it's that.
Yeah. So what... in terms of obviously that, so that it sounds like obviously the business model and how you pay towards the projects change, but is there been any discernible difference in terms of like the stretch goals and the targets and everything? Have you had to refocus them at all?
The stretch goals haven't really much changed. I think the big difference in this Kickstarter campaign, at least when you start to take into account the stretch goals, is we're offering a lot more of the audio to backer vote. In fact, we're closing our third vote right now, which is language, and there is a very close tie between two of them. I won't say which two. We're going to announce the winner here shortly. But in that spirit of not only do we listen to the community on what they want us to deliver, not just in the type of audio, but also in how we do it, like the business model, we really want to make it clear